songs. She said, I want it to be joyful, uplifting, and she mentioned a couple other things, but she kept it simple for us. So this is really by design today. This is Grace's design for her memorial. And by the way, thank you, David Fardulis.
It's our pleasure.
Yeah.
Grace meant a lot to me personally.
Thank you.
And I'm sure to us all. So, let us begin.
And the morning bright seas shine bright and fair, when the saints on earth shall gather over on the other shore, and this roll of wisdom yonder will be there. When the roll is called up yonder, 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 I'll be there. Oh, that darkness cloud is morning when the dead in Christ shall rise, and the glory of His resurrection share. When the chosen ones shall gather to their home beyond the sun, and the roll is called up yonder, I'll be there. When the roll is called up yonder, 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 I'll be there. When the roll is called up yonder, 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 we'll be there.
Now it's your turn. When the roll is called up yonder, let us sing.
When the roll is called up yonder, 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 I'll be there.
The scriptures that have been chosen are John chapter 14, 1 to 3, and 2 Corinthians 1, chapter 1, verses 3 through 4. John 14, 1 to 3. Do not let your hearts be troubled. You believe in God? Believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions, and if it were not so, I would have told you. I go and prepare a place for you with me, that you also may be where I am. 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 3 through 4. Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of mercies and God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our afflictions, so that we may be able to comfort those who are in any affliction with the comfort with which we ourselves are comforted by our God. May the Lord add a blessing to the reading and the meditating of His word.
And in many rest homes for the old and the sick. No one could avoid tapping their feet, singing along and smiling when she played. Her years were filled by a commitment to arts and crafts. Initially, she expressed her creativity by drawing. More than a few of her drawings became cherished gifts to her family. Next came knitting, crocheting, and handcrafted hats that were marketed throughout the area. When arthritis took away her dexterity, she turned to scrapbooks, many of which were given as gifts to her favorite dentist or mailed to St. Jude's Children's Hospital. In all of her physical struggles, Grace maintained a joyful spirit. I recall one day last month, when she shook hands with me. I was proud to to demonstrate what a powerful grip she had. All those years of exercise and lifting weights gave her energy and the capacity to put down most aging men in arm wrestling.
For being here today with us. And so remembering my mother, Grace Berray, and honoring her life, and as she wants to honor us. Because today, I know that she would want this to be a time of inspiration for each one of us, as she was in life. That this would warm each one of us and encourage each one of us to go on with our lives, do the very best we can with this, our own works of art. That's what each one of us is. And that would pay tribute to her life. If we can each go away feeling warmed, inspired, and encouraged to take care of, to enter the rest of our days. I want to thank Gary Pritchard. He's a quiet kind of guy, but I'll tell you what, for the past 34, 35 years, he's been there if Grace needed anything, if I needed help with my mother, he was always there. And I just want to give you a hand. You've been an unsung hero, but not today. You're a son hero. I found something that I wrote to my mother May 14th, 2006, and I thought, I'll read it today. Dear Mother Grace, you have given me so many precious gifts, and I think some of us can identify with this. The first is the gift of life, and an example of courage and forbearance in the midst of health problems, which she has given me. And the knowledge that it is good and important to share one's talents and skills for the enjoyment and upliftment of others. And that music and a positive attitude are part of the stuff of life. And that it is important to create beauty, order, and peace in one's own corner of the earth. I appreciate and love my mother so very much, and thank God for her on this Mother's Day. With love, your daughter, Linda. Even now, I'm realizing more and more the enrichment, the richness that even in the harder times with my mother, when things weren't so easy, weren't so comfortable, that I still learned. I learned about strength. I learned about who I was and who I wanted to be. And I learned more about love. I'd like to, I don't think we mentioned that she was also a poet. On a Sunday morning in May of 1980, my mother, this was probably before church, she had gone out to her garden. She was an early riser. She loved her daylilies and all her flowers, and she took such inspiration from them. We all know that she was a very directive person sometimes. She really knew what she wanted, and she really knew what she didn't want. But there were also times when Grace would just let go. It was in her music. She would just love, she was so passionate about music, so passionate about her flowers. And this shows it. It's called Daylilies. I arise and make my morning rounds in happy anticipation. Each day a new one to greet and be greeted by. Like seeing friends, no matter if shoes are wet with heavy dew. Some pale, some boldly marked with rosy rust, with yellow. Flutings, with yellow flutings. How delicate and fragrant. Somehow these are special, taking precedence over their longer blooming contemporaries. I think as I retire at night, how many will greet me on the morrow? If they could speak, what would they say? Fresh and glowing, will they ever know how much they are admired? On tall, straight, sturdy stems, they look out upon a troubled world. But oh, what peace I feel to have such beauty close at hand. I will end with her words.
Thank you.
And what I saw that was inspirational in her. Grace, I guess my earliest memory of Grace was visiting her as a very small boy in Rochester, New York. Visited their house with my parents. The things I remember from that trip were big enveloping arms, a cuckoo clock that seemed to be made out of magic, and sugar cinnamon toast in the morning, which was just awesome, probably because it had way too much butter. But sort of set my taste buds on a path. After that, I remember visiting in Florida after they moved to Florida when I was about yay tall, and being able to run around in the sun and look with amazement at the chameleons and the alligators, riding Grandma's three-wheeled tricycle, you know, all around the mobile home community, very nice place. My grandfather trying to teach me to play golf. And again, big and folding arms and good food. You know, being in Florida, it was a lot of grapefruit with sugar and cinnamon. And I remember how gracious he was about the bass that I brought home from one of the ponds, which being a little girl also visiting her grandparents caught after a lot of splashing around and broken lines and basically throwing it up on the shore with our hands. Delicious, delicious. It's after that, came visiting her when I became a young adult. After high school, before I went into the Marine Corps, I decided that I would visit my grandparents in Florida, you know, before I left for boot camp. And excitingly, I got to take her and Grandpa over to the local middle school and bed down because I managed to time my trip to coincide with a hurricane. That was pretty interesting. I think it was Hurricane Andrew. It's my first and only hurricane so far, anyway. I've managed to dodge the ones that have rolled through the southeast recently. And then finally her time in North Carolina, which I think are the three places is the best that she lived. It was the closest to nature. It had the birds that she loved, the flowers that she loved, the climate that she loved. And I came down and spent 10 years here. And my parents obviously came down and spent the rest of their time here. And I'm very grateful that Grace was able to be here and be with everyone. and make so many friends and spread her own internal grace around the community. Grace lived for slightly under 107 years, which is an amazing number. She went from the Model T to the Tesla. She saw world wars, police actions, fortunately not in person. She saw first moving pictures. Now we have 3D and 4K. She's seen so many changes in her life. A complete revolution in how people live, and she rolled with it. You know, as all of us have had to do in this room. Roll with the changes. Grace, when people were around, was always at her most cheerful and happy. She really thrived on human interaction. Her dark times were when she were alone. So for all of you who spent time with my grandmother, thank you. Thank you.
My name is Eric Dowdy. I am the other grandson. And for any of those that have the privilege of having a sibling, now you understand why it's so hard to follow them, because they always want to do something that makes it harder for you. But in the spirit of everything going on, we're eternally grateful as a family. You know, I thought a lot about interactions and things throughout my life where I, you know, remember Grandma, all the letters she wrote, the times we shared in Florida, not being able to open the mobile home door because there was an alligator up against it. Or the first time I was ever attacked by the army ants riding that tricycle. Oh.
I think I had more fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I learned my life experiences through Mark's interpretation of how they should have been. But in the interest of kicking everything that I had thought about talking to you all about to the curb and being in the moment,
Aunt Charlene will help.
yeah, it's all right. It's good. I'm grateful. And Grace did something.
Hey.
It's okay. It's all right. It's okay. Grace united things. Hope y'all can hear me. She united pain with joy. Amen. She united, she crossed racial lines. She overcame the way she learned to see people and decide to choose the path of right and righteousness. Because we're only products of what we learn. As children, all we know is love and joy. And then life sometimes wants to teach us things like hate, indifference, inequality. We have all had the privilege to be in the space of a spirit that has chosen to overcome and see life and people the way God intended. She's a healer. She was an instrument of healing. And it happened through music and art and interaction. Bossy, commanding, entitlement. But she did it from her heart. And when you were loved by her, you knew it. So, united is the term that I'm remembering her by. And it's something that we all have a choice to take with us and continue to unite. Sometimes that uniting, it only happens when you travel across the world to reignite or unite. But sometimes it's just about getting on your knees and reuniting with your source. And then you take that and then you give it to those near you. We unite through family. Sometimes, and what I've learned in my life, and I'm sure many of you all too, because the Spirit is here today, that family is sometimes more than having the same last name. It's a behavior, it's a conduct, it's a respect and admiration. These are the opportunities we have today. And we can forever be grateful because as Dad Gary said, the body died, but that's all that died. Grace, as all of our ancestors are here with us right now. So let's live this day as if they're all watching us. And let's treat everybody we come in contact with in a way that they can be so proud of what they lived and died for. Thank you all for coming. And thank you for sharing love with one another. That is what it would have meant and still means the most to Grace. Thank you.
All of us. That's why I'll say our words.
We're celebrating Grace's life, and I want to say thank you for coming. And I met Grace back, I think it was in 2005, I believe it was, and what a joy she meant to me. I was here for a number of years, and I tell you, sometimes when I walked in, if I wasn't feeling up to par, had some negativity on my shoulder, so to say, I could look her out or seek her, and would know after I left her that I would be feeling much, much better. She reminded me a lot of my mother. I've told Linda that. So she just became very endearing to my heart. And I know she's in a better place. I know her spirit is still alive and smiling on us and smiling on everybody here. And I want to say again, thank you. I appreciate you all coming. And I think there are some treats or something in the country kitchen. So thank you.
We have one more song.
One more song, Grace's favorite.
I want to know that he is a part of us today, and I know he will feel a part of us as well. I know he feels a great spirit of forgiveness in himself, upon himself, and upon all of us here. And I know he would want me to say right now, and thank thank you, God, and in Jesus'